All right, welcome back. My name is Stanley Uche, and this is Rethinking Lagos Show live on your number one family radio station. Of course, this is Inspiration FM 92.3. And as usual, in the studio, I have my friend, brother from another mother.
Hi, Stan. Good morning.
How you doing, Mr. Deji?
I'm doing great. It's nice to be here again.
All right, another fantastic edition. And this time around, we're talking about what?
Solid waste management in Lagos.
Solid waste management here in Lagos, because we're trying to move Lagos forward, trying to make sure Lagos is a state where we can all look at and say, yes, we're proud of Lagos State, and how to, change our mentality about Lagos and what we can do as individuals, organizations, and firms, and doing business here in Lagos, how we can improve our environment here in Lagos so we can all smile and say, finally, we have our own Dubai here in Nigeria. That's the target, right?
We have our own Lagos.
We have our own Lagos. Thanks for that correction. All right, how to improve or how to manage waste in Lagos, basically. That's what we're talking about. So let's have...
today is actually, I think this period, the world is celebrating World Cleanup Day.
All right.
So there are quite a number of activities going on all over the world about waste management, cleaning up our space. So I think... we have a very good topic to discuss today, coinciding with the celebration of World Cleanup Day.
All right.
And with me in the studio this morning is a sister of mine. She has taken me to all kinds of places in Lagos where you have deaths all over, and she's been trying to do a couple of interventions here and there, trying to get the attention of policymakers and the area of waste management and reaching out to marginalized communities. She's a development researcher, lecturer, and consultant with expertise in the areas of environment, energy, and gender. She has worked across different sectors, identifying pathways to greater inclusion of marginalized population. Her name is Dr. Temilade Sesan.
Good morning, Doctor.
Well, she's married to somebody I respect so much, one of Nigeria's tech gurus, Benga Sesan. He's also an inspiration. No, don't worry. I just needed to add that.
You just need to rub that in.
Yeah, I need to rub that in. Somebody that I respect so much, and I also respect her too for her work. They're just one. You see, people talk about power couples and all of that. These are impact couples.
Wow, I like that. I like that.
So, Temilade, so getting right into it. Waste management in Lagos, the issues around it, I'm not too sure it needs a lot of introduction. But however, I'd like to quote the governor of Lagos State at the recent event of the Blue Box Launch Program. He said Lagos has a huge population and it generates over 10,000 metric tons of waste daily, adding that the old method of waste disposal has become old-fashioned. So we need to begin to rethink waste management in Lagos. Even the government appreciates and sees to that. But and Lagos waste management has a long history. But I'll just like to take you back to a recent history, recent event rather of Visionscape. Visionscape as an initiative was launched by the last administration. I would like to find out from you that initiative was actually cut short. What would you say? And the reason why I'm asking this question is for the purpose of learning for the future. What was responsible for the failure of the Visionscape initiative?
Okay, that's a big and multifaceted question.
Yeah, for a doctor.
But from my perspective, the perspective of a researcher, I did quite a bit of research into what happened around the initiative at that time. Apart from the usual chorus of the political hijack and things that we had around that time, it was essentially a failure to connect with the realities of waste problems and waste management possibilities on the ground. So we had a situation where we had this PSP system that was to a large extent delivering on immediate waste management needs. Was there room for improving that system? Yes, there was. But
when you then bring a system that essentially shuts off everything that was happening, we're talking about history to waste management in Lagos just then. Almost like trying to wipe off an entire history of what had been going on before, previously, and then coming to impose something alien, apart from, like I said, all the political angle to it. Even if there was no political self-interest involved, the whole approach, the whole top-down, heavy-handed approach was doomed from the start. Add on to that the whole political wranglings, and you had a program that was literally dead on delivery.
Interesting. So let's talk a bit more about the old top-down approach. It's like this is something that keeps reoccurring, and it's like a challenge for our development. So, for the sake of listeners out there, what do we really mean by top-down and bottom-up? If you can expatiate more on that.
Okay. I mean, I thought top-down is English, but maybe it also has a bit of jargon to it. So yeah, top-down, as it sounds, it's has connotations of centralization, of this authoritarian approach to things, thinking that people don't know enough or don't have anything to bring to the table when it comes to solving their own problems, and just thinking some central person, agencies, government somewhere can sit down in a room, craft solutions without making reference to the people who are going to use them, and then just come up with some pie in the sky scheme. This looks wonderful. They're doing it in Dubai. Let's import it here. I really like that clarification. Like, Dubai is not Lagos is not Dubai, and vice versa. It's not anywhere else. I mean, Lagos is unique. Lagos, and that's the great thing about it. So, but when we don't draw on the energies of the people, the grassroots, if you will, institutions that already exist, and inform the ways that people are doing things, then what we have is a top-down approach as opposed to bottom-up, where you harness the energies that people. So we often think we have to design schemes in the abstract. In some ways, bottom-up approaches are even somewhat easier in the sense that you're not inventing things from scratch. You are drawing on what people are already doing for themselves and saying, okay, so how can we improve those things?
In practice right now, let me put it this way. The issues of cart pushers. Lagos State actually came up with a law, and cart pushers were banned.
Yes.
Are you referring to something like this?
Yes. So, full disclosure, I live in central Lagos, and it is a cart pusher that has been taken off my waist for the past 2 years since I moved to my place, because there is no PSP truck in sight. And why do I say this? This is my experience. There are other experiences elsewhere in Lagos. There are places where trucks can't reach, even bicycles maybe cannot reach. And these cart pushers go into those nooks and crannies to evacuate the waste in what the government apparently sees as crude ways. But the question is, are they delivering a service? Yes. Are they filling in a crucial gap that has been left by inadequate infrastructure at the municipal level? The answer is yes. So banning them is like burying our heads in the sand and sort of pretending that the problem doesn't exist, pretending that there's no room, there's no gap for them to fill. If you ban cart pushers, what of those people that they are servicing? You're banning cart pushers when we're talking about PSP audits, done, and how literally almost half of the PSPs on paper actually don't exist in practice now. There's a huge gap, and I would think that the more realistic approach would be to embrace actors that already can fill those gaps, and then work with them to say, how can we see them as partners rather than as rivals or miscreants. We have all these interesting terms for actual human beings in Lagos, which I've never understood. Saying they are miscreants and things like that. They are earning a wage. Add to that the fact that there are no jobs. Like we say, people. So you are solving a waste management problem and an unemployment problem at the same time. So can we increase the protections for them? Can we? Okay, you want to make them look a bit more presentable. There is a lot of scope for that.
You took me somewhere like some weeks ago. The community that don't have and it's in Badia.
Really?
Yeah. I think that is probably the dirtiest.
Community in Lagos, you want to say that?
Because you see, when you talk about road, their road is actually made with waste. So it's like this community is surrounded by 7 communities, and other communities go there to dump waste in that environment. And the biggest challenge with these communities is the fact that, for one reason or the other, they don't have access to services of Loma.
Okay.
Either for reasons of not being able to afford the services, or there are no vehicles of Loma that can move into this community. So when you even say Lagos is dirty, you and I, we drive on the main road and we see dirt all over the place. But she has been working in a lot of marginalized communities like the one I just mentioned. And the services of these cart pushers, these local guys, are actually needed. But there is a law that says
they should move around.
Yes, talking about coming from bottom up. What can the government, what level is there? Should we have a rethink of this law and have some level of recognition for informal waste collectors of some sort?
Okay, so just first off, I wish this was like an audio-visual thing, because you need to see this community. Is it okay? You need to see this community that Deji is talking about to actually begin to try to believe what we're talking about. Seeing is absolutely
believing. Yeah,
absolutely. It's quite bad, if we want to label it like value, a sign of value. I try to avoid labeling, but it's bad in the sense that if you speak to the residents, they are not happy necessarily to live in those under these conditions. But the cart pushers and in fact, there are various levels in the community. You have those who use the baskets on their head. Quite innovative. You have wheelbarrows. So the image of cart pushers we have outside here, it's not even necessarily So they have adapted it to because even there are places that even the carts will get stuck. So it's actually easier for you to carry the basket on your head, and take it. I think that banning generally as a policy, in waste management as well, just specifically, I think that banning doesn't even work. So maybe the argument doesn't even start from is banning right or wrong. Banning does not even work. You ban people as long as there is a need for the service.
People actually go patronize them.
And it becomes something underground, and it becomes you have effectively created like an underground, like a black market, if you will. So it will go on as long as there's a need for it. How can the cart pushers, like ones we saw in Badia, how could they be integrated? I think that dialogue is a very, very powerful tool. There's a very, very large power distance between residents of communities like that and outside. Even within, you see that many of the cart pushers are even maybe like marginalized within those communities as well. They are mostly immigrants from outside of the state and all of that. So even they sort of know that they live precarious existences. I think that coming together, first of all, at community level, and here local governments have a huge role to play. We tend to centralize things at state level as well. I think local governments have a huge role to play in
waste management.
Yes, in overseeing, like legalizing these people within the communities and overseeing their activities. There are also the CDAs. So this is very much a community. We can break cart pushers down to a community level, as opposed to you have aggregations of cart pushers in communities that are overseen and regulated by the local government, the CDAs. You actually have those structures. Then sometimes I wonder what they actually do, because that's what they exist to do. So it doesn't have to be the state. The state, I don't think, has a restriction about cart pushers. And this brings me to another point that it's very possible and even desirable to have these decentralized and centralized systems working in parallel. There's enough waste in Lagos to go around. There's enough waste, potentially for a visionscape type person to have come into carts. There's enough waste for PSP too. There's enough waste for cart pushers. These are different jurisdictions and levels. If we combine, in academic jargon, we would say multi-scalar solutions. So you have multi-level. It's not one or the other. There's just different contexts that all these different strategies can can respond to, and that's what we need.
Okay, so Lagos State government through Loma responded to this waste management issues that we're talking about through the launch of the Blue Box recently to mark part of the 100 days of the governor in Lagos State. What do you think about the initiative?
What is the Blue Box program? A box that is blue. Okay, so basically the Blue Box. Well, I thought it was an interesting play on words because I would have thought, maybe Green Box too, But it's fine. Blue Box it's a catchy name.
But
to be honest with you, it sounds elitist, in the first place. And sometimes the way you couch these things, maybe already shows people how included or not they are in your thinking in the scheme. There has not been a lot of information about it. I heard it in passing at a government workshop that I went to, and it sounded like something futuristic. And then like 2 weeks later, I saw it in the news. Oh, there was a launch. I was like, oh, really? And I think the idea is they are launching some pilot programs in some communities, and they're giving people bags and bins to sort their waste. So I just right off the bat, I just like to say that new waste habits are not formed by giving people better infrastructure. Fundamentally, there is a behavioral change component to it. So how do you get people's attitudes around waste to change, and how do you get them to, even without giving them these boxes of bins, which again, that's another component. I don't know how sustainable. How many years do you want to be giving people being bags for? Especially the bags. The bags, one day it is already full. But I think we need to think more holistically in terms of what sections of Lagos are we targeting this thing at, and maybe just go to the drawing board and look at how our people think, how our people behave. And so this is this just came to my mind as I was talking. It wasn't meant, I'm not doing the promotion for anybody, but I saw this comedy skit around waste management. It was it's quite viral on Twitter, where there's this man, two men in a car. This guy was eating, just throwing things on the floor continually, and the other guy was, Chairman, why are you littering this thing? Can you not see? And then the guy's like, is it your road? Is it your,
It's funny, but the thing is it? I think it has to do with what we as individuals see as waste, how we can, how we can manage our own waste. Because definitely, when you live in your house, you have a bin where you drop those things, and what do you do afterwards? I see a situation where sometimes people just pick up their stuff. Oh, it's raining now. They go to the drainage and they just pour it inside there. Now, will you blame the government for that? Now, we call the government should do this, the government should do. What are we doing as individuals? That's what we also need to talk about as well.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What is the next man doing? What's your neighbor doing about this waste? Okay. So that's the thing, because it's sometimes you can talk to one person and they look at you as this guy is from space. It's like that's what we all do. When it's raining, we just throw it into the drainages and let it just flow. And wherever that water is going to, it could be going to someone's gate, you could go to someone's land. And after the rain, you see plastic bottles, polythene bags everywhere, just because someone will just wake up in the morning. Oh, it's raining now. Let's go there and dump our waste inside the drain, and that you just flow, take it to somewhere else that we don't even care where it's going to. So I think first of all, we need to check ourselves deeply and understand that what we're doing, not just damaging. We might not see the waste in front of our environment, where someone else's place is piling up with waste. So I think that's what we need right now.
Yes. So I think that's part of it. I wouldn't like us to frame this in terms of are we blaming somebody, blaming government, blaming citizens. It's not like this is a collective problem that we need to find collective solutions to. So I think that there's the aspect of littering, where people actually literally wind down their windows of SUVs and throw dirt out. That is one aspect of it, and that responsibility for that lies a lot with individual attitudes. But there's also the flip side of the other example you were giving about somebody just throwing their waste into there's heavy rain and opportunity, and then you throw it in. Some of that, while that is not excusable in quotes. It's not. That's not. I'm not advocating that. But many times you go to those places and it's because they don't have alternatives as well. They don't have. So people that don't. So those in those communities that don't pour the waste in drain, what do? Alternatives are that they burn them, which is equally harmful to the environment. They burn the waste, or because there's no central, there's no whether central or decentralized. There are no alternatives to. Badia, where we were, one major outlet for them was the canal. That was
just go drop it there.
And the canal has become a jungle. Literally, there are snakes and crocodiles in there. Like you wouldn't believe it. But that's partly linked to the fact that they don't have. People coming out to disposal site.
All right.
So all these are interlinked. Yes, there is the a place for individual responsibility, but then it's also the state contract. It's also rights and responsibilities.
Now, talking about responsibilities quickly, what should be the role of people who produce plastics in our society?
Before you answer that, in order to also be part of the 0700 923 923 923, that is 0700 923 923 923. Tell us exactly what you think we can do as individuals or government or companies to help reduce the waste piling up in our environment.
From the angle of the law, I see a whole lot of plastic producers, bottling companies doing several initiatives on CSR. From the legal point of view, what should be the responsibility of this group of people who produce plastic as we have it elsewhere in the world?
Okay, so that is a question that cannot be answered in one sentence. But I think the key thing is, yes, producers do have a responsibility and should take on that responsibility. I think the sort of age of consumerism, especially as it's coming to more like Nigeria is recently lower middle income. You have more consumption and you have these companies coming to sell us things, and that's fine. People drink more Coke. When I was growing up, we had bottled Coke. Now, if you are not holding either a bigger boy or solo, you are not happy. I can't be drinking glass Coke, But actually, that was a more sustainable scheme where you had the bottle buyback scheme. That's part of. But the thing is, it's more expensive for the companies.
Sorry, let's just take this. Hello, good morning.
Okay.
Hello, good morning. We lost that one. 0700 923 923 923 0700 923 923 923. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying the thing is, it's more expensive for the companies to actually take those bottles back, clean them. So the plastic bottles has been a huge relieving of responsibility for them.
And so what it's doing
to the environment. So there needs to be schemes where they some kind of buyback scheme where for every 100 naira that they get on those things, some of that money goes back. To.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Your name and where you calling from?
This is Chris.
All right, Mr. Chris, go ahead, talk to us.
Is the doctor there?
Yes. There's still Rethinking Lagos. We're talking about waste in Lagos, how we can manage them and have a clean environment. So what do you think?
Oh, for that one, yeah, it's good. With what they are doing now, they need to maybe get more hands. Because the thing is still the same. I think they need more hands to help them clear those waste. Like in my area, they come maybe like once in 2-3 weeks. You don't see them anymore. So please, they need more hands. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Chris said they need more hands to help do that. All right, so let's pick this other one. Hello, good morning.
Hello, Stanley, good morning.
Good morning.
This is Sisters for Charity Road.
Sisters, go ahead.
The other man in the studio, good morning, sir.
Morning, Mr. Sisters.
As for me, Stanley, that sometimes the mentality and ignorance of negotiators most times, I just look at it that maybe some of them, they are cost from their village. What am I trying to say? Why can't they do agreements with them landlords or with their tenants in their estate to know how to throw away your dustbin? And so people, the painful thing that is telling me is that some of them, they also that because of this one, they not pay money the last month. So new month, I'm not going to pay. So everybody that is going out of the compound, go and throw away your dustbin in some places or on the canal. So I wonder why the problem is happening like that. Because of two persons in the compound, you people now disagree. Just between yourself. And I wonder, is that proper, Abi? you need to look into that aspect.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you very much, sisters. All right, thank you very much. Let's pick one more. We lost that one. 0700 923 923 923 0700 923 923 923. So he said, well, it starts with your immediate environment, maybe where you stay, where you come, and all of that. If you start with that, then the place can be better.
Yeah, like she was trying to say, we need to do a bit of from bottom up.
Bottom up.
Look at what exists. Is that a call?
Yeah. Hello. Good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. Emma, where you coming from?
Yeah, my name is Joel. I'm calling from Deji.
Let's have your thoughts.
Okay, yeah, this issue of charging plastic bottles.
Yes.
If everyone knows that I'm buying plastic bottle Coke, I'm buying 100 naira, 150 naira, I'm not just having the content. After drinking the content, I have a place I can drop this plastic bottle that be exposed for 5 naira or 10 naira. Probably at the bus stop, people will not trash it in the canal. People will keep up to 10, 100 naira at the bus stop, 100 naira, take me to where I'm going.
Okay.
Take me to money. Simple.
All right.
And thank you.
All right, thank you very much. He's talking about some kind of incentive. So if you have a plastic PET bottle,
buy back.
yes, you just go put it there and they pay you
So
something.
the point
for
is, who pays that money, and that's where who bears responsibility?
Don't you think it's the
producer
government?
or the?
It should be shared somehow. Maybe the producer and the government.
So the whole idea of EPR, that's the extended producer responsibility, is to have that money come somehow from the profits of the producer.
So let's just take this one more call. Hello, good morning. Right, we lost that one. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I think we'll wrap it up on that note. We're still going to do a part 2 of this.
We should.
We are hoping that we'll be able to bring in the MD of LOMA, that is the Lagos State Waste Management Authority.
Yes.
To come and speak more about the strategies being adopted by the agency.
Sure.
And we still seriously need to talk about the responsibility of the producers of plastic in our community, how they need to step up. It's not CSR. It's not, no. It is by law. It is your responsibility to get these things back.
Yeah, and I also think they should ban the use of polythene bags. Straight away. Totally. Then let's use plastic bags. So if you go to a supermarket, instead of putting your stuff in the polythene bag, you have this paper bag now. Paper bag. You put it there and you can just go burn it.
People should just go with their own bags to this.
Or you go with your own bags. Something you can take home and just keep it somewhere. Something fancy. Something you could just use again and again and again.
Definitely we're doing a part 2 of this.
Yes, we will.
I hope Doctor will still.
She will be here. All right, that's it. We're thanking Lagos this week. So we're going to do this again same time next week. Remember, it's Inspiration FM 92.3.